I think that's it. How are we doing, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I've got a guest with me today that's a bit different from the usual. This is normally primarily a music channel, but I'm branching out, and I've got with me today Dave Martel, the head creator of the Bizarchives, which is a series of books that I've been following lately. And he's got a number of different channels and podcasts. He's a metalhead like us. And I wanted to get him on the channel and talk. So, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. How you doing?
I'm having a good time. I'm having a good day so far. It's a bit rainy. It's a bit, it looks like summer's officially over now in the UK. Yeah. But let's talk about the Bizarchives, a series of books that we're going to go through bit by bit.
My man got them all.
So we'll, I think like a number of good projects that are coming out, this is something that came up during the lockdown, I believe. It was something. Yes, was this something that you had in the back of your mind for a while, or was it just a lightning thing that hit you one day and you went along with it?
A little bit of both. Yeah. It was a little bit of both. I've always loved this style of fiction. You know, I've always kind of, I've been published elsewhere writing nonfiction, but my heart's always been with fiction. You know what I mean? Yeah. I grew up loving all kinds of books. Yeah, obviously we go through Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, and when I was real young, I really liked The Hobbit. Yeah, I've just always loved fantastical, imaginative storytelling. I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons and watching Sci-Fi Channel campy B movies on Sci-Fi. I've always loved Edgar Allan Poe, and I liked Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and John Carter of Mars, and like all of the above. I've always been into it, and then a little bit later, I got into like creepy comics and Tales from the Crypt and all those like horror comic books and Heavy Metal magazine and Epic magazine and all that kind of stuff. All of the above, and obviously at the same time, at this point in my life, I'm really getting into metal. My first favorite band ever was Black Sabbath. And then after that, I really got heavy into Dio. And, if you listen to those, especially to Dio, he has a lot of themes of fantasy and magic and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
His albums were like they were an open book, weren't they? Especially for a young kid in the old school way as well. If you had your dad's record player and your big earphones that are falling off you because they're supposed to fit your dad. In particular, you would just fall into those albums.
Yep. The big headphones with the curly cord.
Yeah.
Yep. I had that. So, yeah. And then I've just always loved it. And during lockdowns, I had a tough time. I lost my job. Me and my wife were getting ready to buy a new house because had a third baby on the way. We were going to buy something a lot bigger than what we're living in. Lost my job, lost everything. We just got like, the world poured down on us, and it was a mess, right? And I got really depressed. I got real depressed. I got really in my own head. I was like not feeling good. So I was like, I have to create. I'm a creative guy. I grew up playing music. I've always loved, tabletop games and art and writing and poetry and all of the above. And I was like, I want to create something that's different than kind of what's out there. I want to create something that's in the vein of the stuff that I love. So I was like, I'm going to go back to the old days of pulp fiction and create something that's kind of in that lineage of pulp fiction. And I created the Bizarchives. I came up with the word. It's Bizarre Archives. I thought it was a kind of catchy name. So I put it together and I put up the banner and got some authors involved. And it's been awesome ever since.
Right. So we'll start going through the books, or the ones I've got, and then you can give me a brief guide to the ones I haven't got. You've got a sale on at the moment, is that right?
I've got a what?
A sale on.
A solemn?
A sale, sorry. A sale.
A sale. Yeah. I'm sorry. Language barrier. Yeah, we got a sale on right now. All books are $10 and under. And just go to thebizarchives.com. There's Amazon links there. Go over, buy some books, $10 and under. What we're building up is we are getting into doing our own shipping and fulfillment. We want to get into printing our own books. We want to expand, and we're doing very good so far, but we need a nice hard push to get us over and to become completely independent and kind of really fulfill our destiny.
So you go onto the bizarchives.com. you go on each book. There's a link to buy on Amazon.
Yep.
I've got these from Amazon.co.uk. I'm guessing they get printed here. I guess is it a print on demand thing that you've got going, or is there a way that people can order directly from you?
That's coming very soon.
That's like coming, right?
That's what we're working on right now.
So keep checking the Bizarchives.com for when that does come. In the meantime, you can get them on Amazon.
Yep.
And there's links to the Amazon page on there. All right. So Bizarchives.com. So let's go through the books. So first off, you've got the Bizarchives Volume 1.
Yep.
This is a collection of short stories in fantasy, science fiction, horror, and fantasy. Yeah. And what have we got here? We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. Oh no, yeah, 14 short stories. Some included, some done by your good self as well.
Yep. And, I have 2 stories in there.
You have 2 stories in here, and you're the overall editor. You collect the books and put it all together. And cool artwork as well. By
Donald Kent, the mighty Donald Kent.
Awesome stuff. So yeah, these are really worth getting. I mean, I think this type of books and heavy metal go hand in hand as well. This is why another reason why I wanted to get you on the channel, because supporting the record industry is one thing, but you should support anything that's within our realm. You know.
What were your favorite stories in there?
I've not actually read this one yet because my boy's working his way through it, although unsuspectedly there were some adult themes. But you've got a character in here yourself, haven't you? Bear with me.
Lucius Lex.
Lucius Lex, yeah.
Yep, he's kind of like a grim dark Conan. Right. It's like if you're a heavy metal guy and you like Giga Chad turbo violence and brutality and the sword and sorcery action, he fights monsters, he fights demons, he's like that's what he is. So if folks that like Conan, folks that like Solomon Kane will, I believe, like my character Lucius Lex.
So that's what are the story, and that's Lucius Lex are included in all of the Bizarchives, yeah?
Yeah, yep.
So that will be Lex and the Lost Girl is the first one.
And my second story in there is called They Never Woke Up, which is a sci-fi short.
Oh, that's a separate one. Okay, cool. All right, so then we got the Bizarchives 2.
Yup.
So this will be carrying on with that. You got some. I guess once the first one come in, did you get like an influx of new authors?
Yeah, we got the first one. There's like a few authors I had to like reach out to so we have enough stories. Yeah. But we got a bunch of really good ones. For the second issue, I had so many stories I couldn't even like deal with it. We had so many authors come in and want to donate stories. It was unreal. So we did our best to pick the best of or at least the ones that we liked the most for our theme, and came out with it. And it's got beautiful interior art. Yeah, the interior art's beautiful.
Well. And so let's have a look. See what else we got in here. Yeah, This is what I love about this. Is that it's a work of love. You know, you tell you're passionate about what you do, and as this project, you know, as it gets bigger, you're just gonna.
Yeah.
No, you're just gonna, you know. And then we've got the Bizarchives 3.
Yeah.
This is the latest issue.
Yep, that's the latest one. Yep.
And this is the one I remember you saying on another podcast you really feel you've hit your stride on this issue.
Yeah, that was that one. I believe that is my favorite one we've done so far. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with issue 1. I think I'm very proud of it. I think it's a good book. But that was our first one. You know, your first one, everything isn't going to be your best. And after 2 and 3, I really hope that we could keep up the quality because we really raised the bar on those 2 books. Bizarchives 2 and Bizarchives 3 have a lot of great stories in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you were in a band, it's your third album. You're proud of the first 2, but on this particular one, everything's come together. And so they've got the 3 volumes of the Bizarchives. So that's and also what you're doing is reissues of old obscure horror stories as well.
That's right.
So I've got 2 more books here. Let's start with this one actually. So you've got the Sci-Fi fans, The Adventures of Buck Rogers. This is the first 2 stories.
Yep, Man in the 25th Century. Those are the first two novellas written by Philip Francis Nolan of the character Buck Rogers. And I put them in one. They appeared in Amazing Stories, I believe 1934 or something like that. Very, very old, but very, very cool and very different from the Buck Rogers that people would know about with the TV series.
I think Buck Rogers, I think that series with looks like a school play.
Yeah.
Square cardboard robots and just like the old Lost in Space and the old Doctor Who's and stuff like that. So yeah, this is right at the beginning. Again, awesome artwork.
Once again, that's Mr. Donald Kent.
Yeah. And so what would you say? Are they a bit more mature? Are they a bit more? Is it a bit slightly darker than what the series would go on to do? Or
yes. So that kind of I like there was that brand of planetary romance of going and exploring space, and it's kind of wholesome. There's pretty girls, and that kind of what we associate Buck Rogers with in the 70s and 80s. But that type of sci-fi only really got popular in that time. Science fiction in the pulp days when Philip Francis Nolan created Buck Rogers was very different. It was like I said, that the more uplifting sci-fi was around, but there was a lot of sci-fi that was more concerned with questions of the direction of technology. There were more stories that were more concerned with how it affects human nature, with what the future will look like. And in fact, the editor from Amazing Stories that published that, he said that these stories were prophetic. And for those of you that are familiar with Buck Rogers, the TV show, the 80s one, if you and I keep saying it's very different. The original Buck Rogers, which is Armageddon 2419 and the Air Lords of Han,
that's the two that's included here. Yeah.
Yep. It is the reason I published that is because that book is too spicy for nowadays. A lot of publishers won't touch it because it's pretty edgy, right? The story is about in the way he describes it too. It's 1930s. He describes things how people in the 1930s describe things. He talks about how the American race has fallen, and he describes them as the yellow menace come from the far east with their ships and lay waste to them, and the Americans are left in the far future to scurry among these camouflaged like kind of hidden bases and kind of liberate themselves from the oppression of the Han. And it's like it's pretty spicy, but it is a futuristic dystopian kind of story about resistance fighters that are fighting to liberate themselves from a tyrannical foreign force. And it's really based, and it's just a great story. It's like, if you think that Buck Rogers in the 80s was cheesy, give this a shot, because it's violent, it's action packed, it has a lot of there's some political themes in there. It's just an awesome book. Awesome, man.
And then this is the last one I've got, but there's a few more that you can tell me about afterwards. But yeah, this is a cosmic horror double feature. So this is featuring Dreadage and Prestwick's Project.
Yep.
And this is by
A. Cuthbertson
and
yep.
H.P. Lovecraft. Was it? No, that was that the Hollows where you said the H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, the Willows. Yeah.
Sorry, not Hollows.
It's all good.
But yeah. So yeah, give us a brief overview of this one.
So the cosmic horror. Yep. The Cosmic Horror double feature is written by A. Cuthbertson. He's the author of Tanner's Gold and the Count Coralor series. And he is an Englishman from, I forget where he's from exactly, but he's he's a Geordie, right? He's from the north part of England, right?
Yeah.
So he writes a lot of his stuff in that kind of flavor, that regional flavor, in that dialect. And Cosmic Horror double feature is very, very cool, especially they're both really great stories. But it is not like a lot of times when you see cosmic horror, it's somebody doing a Lovecraft knockoff or trying to sound like Lovecraft, or it's an ironic kind of satire of Lovecraft. Cuthbertson takes the genre and he takes kind of the philosophies of Lovecraftian horror, and he makes it very British, and it's very cool. He tells a lot of stories like in Dredge, it very much shines a light on the struggles of the British working class in the beginning of the 1900s, and it's about a group of English tough guys that go work for this Dutch venture capitalist that's draining all the swamps, and they have to protect him. And they find out that the Dutch venture capitalist is up to a little more than they thought he was, and they uncover something that's pretty otherworldly. And it's just a really great story. And then the second story, Prestwick's Project, is probably one of the weirdest stories I've ever read. It is it's about these these kids that go through university, and they get brought into this project by this kind of rock star pop pop scientist guy, and he puts them on this project. His name's Dr. Prestwick, and it's this Prestwick's Project, and the project ends up being pretty weird and dark, and a lot of interdimensional kind of weirdness goes in there. So it's like a blend of sci-fi and cosmic horror, which a lot of times is the best type of cosmic horror.
Awesome, man. And yeah, you're on fire at the moment, man. You're kicking them out. So you've got another 2 on here that I've yet to get. No, 3 that I've yet to get, and even a 4th one that I think has just been released. So we've got the Molybdus Articulate. Is that how I pronounce that right?
The Molybdus Articulate.
The Molybdus Articulate. Sacred Times Volume 1, so that's part of an ongoing series. And then you've got the reissue of the Willows, and then is it Shanghai Horror?
The Shanghai Horror.
So let's quickly go through those, and then we'll have a talk about sci-fi and the way things are at the moment and all the rest of it. So so these are, I guess we'll start with the Molybdus. The
Molybdus Articulate. I know it's a weird word. He made it up.
Is that a new story, or is that obscure?
That is a new original story.
That's a new one, right?
Yep. By a guy
named his Sacred Times.
Yep. Those are both completely new original stories. So the Molybdus Articulate is a story. It's actually written by a guy, my kinsman in real life, Shane. His name's Shane, and he wrote this story. It is probably the most disturbing, surreal cosmic horror on the market today. It is weird. We put warning labels when we promote it sometimes, because there are certain people, if they read it, it would really, it's not like something like Hostel or Saw or like Turbo Gore or whatever, but the way that he unfolds this story and the kind of the surrealist stuff that happens is very mind-bending and really disturbing. There's a lot of body horror and stuff, but the gist of the story is there is a private investigator, and it's been a while since I've read this. So there's a private investigator, and he gets a guy that asks him about investigating this journal. So he goes to this strange New England town, and there's weird cult stuff that happens, and he ends up in this lighthouse, and there's like series of like dreams where he reality folds in and out, and he stumbles upon like really grotesque thing. Like, I'll give you guys an example of a scene. There is a scene where he doesn't know if he's dreaming or not, and he kind of like opens his eyes, and he's in this endless dark plane he describes them as chrysalises, these like human cocoons that are suspended in air, spinning, and whatever's in there is trying to get out. And then he runs through it. He runs relentlessly, and turns out that he's also in a cocoon, and he pushes his way out and explodes onto the floor and all this fluid. And it's like so weird. It's so weird. I'm telling you, if you like weird, spooky, surrealist, psychedelic stuff, get that book. It is so weird.
Awesome. And so what made you reissue? What made you want to reissue the Willows?
It's a masterpiece of supernatural horror literature that a lot of people don't really know about. Unless you're like into this, you probably haven't heard of Algernon Blackwood, right? So Algernon Blackwood, he has many, many great stories. That's like his main one that people know. And we'll probably release we actually have the idea of a Masters of Horror compilation where we put together all of the kind of like lesser known masters of horror back at the turn of the century, and we're going to put them together. But The Willows is a masterfully written, beautiful, it's like very artful, but it's also extremely weird and surreal and spooky, and it was cosmic horror before there was cosmic horror.
Yeah. And Shanghai Horror, tell us about that one. Is that another new one, or is that
That is another new one. That's our newest one. It's by our boy Arbogast, who writes.
You've got a really good mixture going on of, the giving new artists and new stories a platform whilst giving, a reissue. So if someone comes in looking for an obscure horror book that's maybe out of print or something like that, but then they see that you've endorsed these people, it goes, well, I trust these guys, so I'm going to give this a go. It's like a stamp of approval with a record label or something like that. Back in the Roadrunner days, if it had that stamp on you knew you was going to get a good record. No matter
exactly.
Yeah.
If the Bizarchives stamp is on it, you are going, and if you like the Bizarchives kind of stuff, if our name is on it, it's going to be something you're going to like. You know what I mean? That's just and it's the way that we approach it is we're not really trying to like here's what I think is kind of the problem with modern fiction a lot is if it's not there's too much silly ironic nonsense, there's too much subversive nonsense, and everybody else is trying to reinvent the wheel. They're trying so hard to create something innovative and new and everything that it just ends up missing the mark. And what is left behind is this huge void where just good old fashioned casual reading was. The Bizarchive, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are just trying to entertain people. We want to obviously we want to weave in some big brain ideas and some smart things and some philosophical kennings and stuff. But that's not our main goal. Our main goal is to entertain the reader in a way that is affordable and in a format that is accessible to him. Most guys nowadays don't have time to read Dune. They don't have time to read these big giant tomes, these epic fantasies and all this kind of stuff. So we went back to the traditional format of fiction, which is short form, which our ancestors in the Industrial Revolution and during the Great Depression here in the States very much loved, because they were working hours that were just unfathomable amount of hours that they were laboring, right? So when they sat down to read something, they didn't have time to read something big. They didn't have the money to afford big books. So they bought something cheap, which were dime novels, and they blew through them and they read them and they traded them with their buddies, and that's what they liked. And that's what we want to put out today. Cool, imaginative, weird storytelling that's heroic and spooky and just fun, but also, there's all of the above for regular folks that might have enough time to read a little bit before bed or while they're on the toilet in the bathroom or on the bus going to work or et cetera, et cetera. That's who we're writing for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes, you get these big books and when it's, 6 a.m. and you're on a train into work or something like that, sometimes it's hard to get into, isn't it? Sometimes you want something that's going to go straight to the point. Again, it's like music, the 12-minute long epics by Tool are all well and good, but sometimes you just want Angel of Death that gets straight in,
Yeah.
And as far as, a lot of modern writers are trying to maybe be a bit more convoluted than necessary or more intellectual than necessary. I remember seeing an interview recently with Lee Child, who did the Jack Reacher series, and there was this news editor, interviewing him and couldn't quite get her head around the fact that people were buying these entertaining thrillers where the main character was a big hench guy that just punched people and knocked them out. And they said, do you feel you should be a bit more this and a bit more that and a bit more, sophisticated and whatnot? And I think Lee Child nailed it. He went, look, at the end of the day, there are two types of books. There are books that make you miss your stop on your train, and there's ones that don't. And I thought he just, have that. And I think you nailed that there with what you just said.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's what our goal was. I'm sorry, I missed some of what you said. I actually pressed a button on my keyboard.
I said which bit did you miss? I said about Lee Child. He said that this interviewer had a bit of a dig at him that he wasn't very sophisticated, and he said, well, he said there's two types of books. There's a book that makes you miss your stop on your train or bus, and there's books that don't. And that's, I thought, was pretty much what you were saying with you wanted to put out stuff that was straight to the point and just entertaining.
Yeah, we got smart stuff in there. There's philosophical ideas in there. There's commentary in there, but that's not the main goal. This is the problem with modern artists as a whole, not just writers, but also musicians and painters and everybody. They have adopted this archetype of the selfish artist. And it is completely the antithesis of what art is and what art is supposed to do. The selfish artist is everything from the midwit fiction author that's trying to write this big giant world building thing that is actually just, it's like Asimov was notorious for this. Like his series Foundation. Like he's like, oh, this is his big brain. It's like, dude, this is the most basic bitch opinions ever. Like you literally just recreated modern humanist society, but gave it a bunch of futuristic technology on a bunch of different planets. It's not that big of a deal. You didn't really do anything new. Okay, so quit. So take your big brain. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to curse and swear and be nasty on your channel, but I'm I get like that.
You're fine. You're fine.
All right. Yeah. Well, you take your session of jerking yourself off and get out of here with it, because this guy is, it goes into music too. Everybody's familiar on your channel. They're going to be familiar with the super obscure single guy black metal band that makes music that's so noisy, necro black metal, but I don't make it for anybody else. I make it for myself, so I can sit and listen to it by myself and the 9 people that know about me. And that's not what art is about. That's not what art is about. What art is art is. Okay, so there's going to be people that rip me apart about this because this is an ongoing debate forever what art is. But this is my definition. I'm going with it. Art is fantasy. And what makes something fantasy is immersion. The medium that gives art is a transmission of power, right? You want to thrust this fantasy upon your viewer. Your job is the skald. Your job is the bard. Your job is to thrust the viewer, the audience, into a realm of fantasy, a realm of abstraction, and a realm of entertainment that appeals to him. It is like casting magic spells, right? You are casting a spell onto somebody through voice, through music, through sound, through story, through poem, through art, through whatever. That is your job, is to convey that onto somebody else. Your job isn't to jerk yourself off. And a lot of modern artists across the board are the selfish artists that want to jerk themselves off. And in doing that, art has degenerated, and it no longer serves its goal. So we take our jobs very seriously in that we are writing stuff. We want to write stuff that when you pick it up and you read it, it is fun and entertaining. It doesn't matter what the genre is. Like, you could be a fantasy guy. You could read one of our sci-fi stories or whatever. We're trying to freak you out. We're trying to uplift you. We're trying to sometimes make you laugh. As a whole, if you're an artist and you're not entertaining, you're not a good artist. So first and foremost, our idea is to entertain. And that's why the Jack Reacher novels are so popular, because they're entertaining. They're not navel-gazing and boring exposition and mid-wit pseudo-intellectual circle jerk. It's just a cool story about a badass dude that goes and kicks a bunch of ass. And that's all you need, right? If you go all the way back in time, yes, there are mythopoetic qualities and big brain ideas and a lot of important nuances to stories like Beowulf and King Arthur and the Iliad and the Odyssey, et cetera, et cetera. But at its core, these are stories about a great man that goes and does great things.
Yeah.
Period. Right? That's what it's all about. And people they've lost that. And we want to bring it back. Not everybody, like you said, Jack Reacher. There's a lot of great authors out there that remember how to entertain people and are in it for their audience and understand that they have a relationship and a friendship with their reader base. You know, it's not just them in their ivory tower like George R.R. Martin, like, you get it when I give it to you, or whatever his approach is. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, his attitude stinks lately, and I agree. I totally agree with everything you just said. And what I would add to it as well, there seems to be a tendency now for the author or the artist to attack the audience if they don't get it. It's like
Oh my God.
a comedian that, you know, starts having a go at the audience because they're not laughing at his jokes because they're not intelligent enough or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're just not funny, bro. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're just not good. How about that?
Yeah.
It's like, and this isn't something that's necessarily new. This is just something that self-important, narcissistic douchebags do. I don't know if you remember. I'm a big fan of Halloween, right? After there was some albums in the middle, Halloween, where they still had Michael Kiske, right? And I can't remember what the album was called, but it was like
Pink Capes Go Pop or something like that. Yeah.
They had a bunch of really stupid, overthought, lousy albums that were just objectively not good albums. And it was Michael Kiske trying to position himself as to become a pop star or something like that, right? And all of the fans sucked. Or all the fans hated it because it sucked. And Kiske was like, "You just don't get it. I'm an artist." Blah, 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 blah. And it was gay. It sucked. You know what I mean? And that's what's going on now, right? You know, Rings of Power, the Amazon Lord of the Rings, is just an abomination. Literally, I have not talked to a single person that doesn't hate that. Even just like regular people that are kind of think, "Oh, I liked the Lord of the Rings movies or whatever." They think it sucks. They think it's terrible because it is terrible. And instead of like saying, "Oh, well, we're terrible and maybe we should change what we're doing and try to actually make good art," they turn around and they lambaste and they belittle and they force their audience into a box with buzzwords to demean them and dehumanize them.
And what they say as well, they'll go, "Oh, why are you getting so bent out of shape? It's just a movie. It's just a show. It's like, yeah, but it mattered enough for you to do it."
Yeah,
it mattered. They always miss that out, don't they?
It mattered enough to spend $1 billion on it.
Yeah, exactly. But and they just crowbar their way under the surface, don't they? And then once they're there, that's it. And then it's like, "No, you're the problem. You can leave." And it's what is happening with everything. It's what is happening with games, as you was discussing on a podcast recently. It's happening with literature, music, and there's this universalism where it's like, this has to appeal to everyone. It's like, well, no, it doesn't have to appeal to everyone. It should appeal to people that like it.
Mm-hmm.
My nan isn't going to play Warhammer.
Yeah.
My grandfather isn't going to be listening to Cannibal Corpse. And if you make this lyrics on Cannibal Corpse a bit more user friendly, my sister's still not going to like it.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yeah, it's but they know what they're doing. They know we know what they're doing, and yeah, they constantly flip-flop their language. They always seem to do it just enough so you and I can see it, but not quite enough. So when we go, "Hold on a minute, I see what you're doing there," they back straight back off. Go, "No."
And they gaslight. They gaslight and they lie because they're worms. You know, they're just not good people. They don't have art in their heart and their soul. These are propagandists. These are parasites. These are people that have an agenda, and not just a political agenda, but they also have an economic agenda. They're just not good people, and Amazon didn't drop $1 billion to get the rights to Tolkien stuff so they could make a beautiful, awesome Tolkien movie. They did it because Tolkien is probably the big dog. He's probably, if you could point to one author that wrote something that was so like that could be considered modern myth, it would be Tolkien.
Yeah.
And how do you destroy a people? You destroy their myth, right? How do you completely demoralize a people? You destroy their myth. So this is what their goal was, is to demoralize us by deconstructing and destroying our myth.
And that's and you touched on something. You just reminded me of something I once read in the Star Wars expanded universe. Did you? I don't know if you're a big Star Wars fan, but there was a trilogy where the villain was a guy called Thrawn, and he's introduced when they're taking over a planet or whatever. He's got a load of their art. You walk into what looks like an art gallery. It turns out it's all holograms, but he's there, and is what are you doing? I'm studying their art because their art tells me everything I need to know about the people, and therefore I know their weakness when we go to invade. You know, it's pretty clever what he's saying, but it was true as what he's saying. The art does reflect the culture.
Exactly.
And when you see these, you know, these what art used to be. I mean, even if you look at, I was speaking to someone recently who's in art college, and even these, you know, you get like an artwork of an album cover, like a heavy metal album cover. And it's like the people that are coming out of these universities, it's like, would they even be able to make this? Let alone would they choose to? You know, now it's just throw an egg at a wall and put a frame on it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we could talk about classics all day, but I was wondering, are there any science fiction like TV series or anything out at the moment that that you do like? You can go, right, despite everything that's going on, this is actually pretty good.
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know. The Expanse I quite like. Have you watched that?
The Expanse?
Yeah.
No, I haven't watched it.
That's pretty good. That's yes. That they seem to. I've got about 3 series in, and then I lost track with it. But up to that point, that was they kept it storytelling and entertainment. It was a good little bit of world building going on. But yeah, I don't know if you're the same as me. I find now when I go to watch films or watch a series, I tend to go back and relive. I'm really getting into Blake 7 at the moment. Have you ever watched that?
What is it?
Blake 7.
No, I've never seen that.
Oh, the writers at the time were with Doctor Who, and then on the time off, they were given their own little project, and Blake 7 was that. The budget is terrible.
Is it an English show?
Yeah, but the scripts are great, and even then, it's just like the audience was treated with respect back then. It wasn't, you know, but yeah. So I suppose we're coming up to the end of the time now, but I suppose just come through. Let's go through some classics. I'll give you like your top 5 books, or but top 5 authors, I would say.
Top 5 authors.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously Howard and Lovecraft. Howard and Lovecraft are like my top 2. I'm a big fan of. I really like Clark Ashton Smith. He's up there. I really like let me think, Frank Herbert. Frank Herbert Dune is an absolute monstrosity to get into. It's so huge.
I'll tell you what, right? That's I've heard you speak about Dune in the past, and we've been getting along so far, but you might want to fall out of me now. Dune is the one of 2 books that have defeated me.
It's not an easy read.
I've tried Dune. I've even bought it more than once, and both times I just can't. I'm not falling in. I don't know what it is. I watched the latest film, and the latest film made sense, and I was like, well, maybe I'll give it another try. But yeah, normally when I'm struggling with a book, it's like, no, I will finish it. But yeah, Dune, I could not get into.
It is a tough read. I can't fault anybody for saying that. You know, yeah. I read the first book. I listened to the second one on audiobook. That's a good option for folks that might struggle with reading it, because it's the universe is huge. It is Lord of the Rings times 10. It's massive. And there should, in my opinion, there should only be one Dune. Like, Dune is the masterpiece. It is the granddaddy. Let's not do another one of those, because I don't have enough time.
Yeah, right. So, well, would you say the books Frank Herbert wrote cut off at that point, or would you even say, no, don't even worry about them, just stick with the first one?
I think the first one is the best one. But after you read the first one, you're going to want to go. The 6 by Herbert are like the only ones. Unfortunately, he died and wasn't able to finish it. But so I would put Frank Herbert for a 5th guy. Poe. I would put Poe.
Poe, yeah, awesome. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I think we'll wrap things up. Yeah, and just on a closing note, you're unreasonable for keeping a standard, be it music, be it writing, whatever it is you're into. These people know what they're doing, and you should push back when you can. And then if you feel like you don't have to have any loyalty against whatever franchise you've got that's being bastardized at the moment. Seek out people like Dave. There's a lot of independent publishers that are coming through now that are, be it science fiction, be it classic literature. Imperium Press are doing books like Beowulf and the Iliad. And yeah, just like you do with the record industry, the answer always lies in the underground. Seek it out. And
always.
Yeah, I've fully fledged this. This is an awesome label, well, not a label, an awesome publisher.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to have caught this at the beginning, and I'm excited to see it grow. And yeah, I hope to have you back on the channel when you got some new releases out, and we can talk about them. And you can come back on the channel and maybe just review an album with me, or talk about a band. And thank you for coming on. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I'm glad we could touch base.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your support. And yeah, I'll come back on. We can talk about some metal. I'm a metalologist myself. So
awesome stuff. So yeah, one more time, let people know where they can find you, and we'll finish with that.
So you can go over to the Bizarchives.com and go click on and follow the links over there. We have a sale going on right now. All books are $10 and less. You can follow us on Twitter and Telegram at the Bizarchives. That is TheBizarchives. You can also check out, we have a very cool blog called The Obelisk. That is the obelisk.substack.com. That if you sign up for only $5 a month or a very low $50 a year, you get free ebooks every single month. So go check it out. Lots of great articles over there. We got merch, all kinds of stuff. Bizarchives.com. Follow us on Twitter and Telegram at the Bizarchives, and that's going to be it. Thank you, sir, so much for having me.
Excellent, man. And yeah, and for UK followers, you can get all these books on Amazon.co.uk as well. But keep checking out the Bizarchives.com, because eventually you'll be able to order them directly. Awesome, Dave. Thanks a lot. And thanks for watching, folks. And I'll see you soon.